Welfare, water and food, pills for everything. Let me put you in the mood. Wall Street, Enron, your pension and 401k banged on. Racial tension in high places. We don't see racism, we erase it. Brutality, we replace it. Give you a dose of your medicine, taste it. Legislation setting traps, chasing anything dark, black, brown, red, or Haitian. Contemplating, everybody hating, infiltrated, military bases. Home sweet home, turn sour. When nobody's scared to die, shock of the hour.
The hour is coming. God must be known today. There would come a time when we wouldn't have to guess about God anymore. There would come a time that God would make himself known and you could see him live and in person and in living color.
No one can make an intelligent decision without being properly informed. This is why this world wants to control the media. This is why media hype can take you up, take you down. So you don't know anymore who's really good, because the media can make a wicked man look good and make a good man look evil. That is why.
Good evening. You are watching a special edition of the Final Call News Hour. I am your host, Herman Muhammad. The Final Call News Hour is the partner of the Final Call newspaper and the Final Call online edition that you can visit at digital.finalcall.com. The Final Call newspaper is the most widely circulated black-owned and operated publication not only in this country but in the entire world. And it also serves as the communications organ for the Nation of Islam. Again, I am your host, Herman Muhammad, and this evening we're going to be coming out of volume number 33, issue number 32, and let me give you a shot of that, which reads, Mother Love, Adoption, Family, and the Amazing Capacity of Black Women to Accept, Embrace, and Nurture Children. A very powerful edition of the Final Call newspaper, and we definitely need you to pick that up. If you can't get it in your local city, which you should be there, FYI, in every single city in America. If you can't get it though, make sure you get that digital edition again at digital.finalcall.com. Again, this is your man Herman Muhammad, and this evening, since we have this beautiful edition of the Final Call that has so many powerful articles written by women and that are dealing with women, we have a very, very special guest. On the line, we have a sister who is an activist. She's a scholar. She hosts a blog talk radio program. Just a very wise and beautiful and powerful sister, and it's my honor to welcome her to the show. We have Sister ZaZa Ali. Sister ZaZa, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am here. Assalamu alaikum, and peace and love to all of the listeners and to the Final Call newspaper as well. It's an honor for me to be on your show.
Praise be to Allah. Now, Sister ZaZa, before we get started, I gave a little baby brief resume, if you will. But if you could just tell the people a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you.
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, I'm a mother. That's my greatest joy, my son Nassim, but I am also an activist. I am currently in the process of completing my first book, which is entitled Black Matters, a scientific, social, a comprehensive overview of Black America from a scientific, social, and historical perspective. I am also a radio host. I do a show called Enemy Minds Radio with Professor Griff. I am also a teacher and a lecturer. I've taught juvenile hall detention students for a little bit over 3 years. I haven't done it in about 6 months, but that was definitely one of my callings. And I'm also doing lectures and speaking engagements currently, trying to raise the consciousness of our people. So that, and then I'm also involved with several projects, cooperative economics. We basically adopt a Black-owned and operated school across the country and give financial donations, have some other things in the works, but those are basically what I'm focusing on right now.
Praise be to Allah. That is very impressive. And again, my honor to have you on the program. And I just know Sister, I must confess, just from her work, I've never met Sister personally. As a matter of fact, this is really the first time we've ever spoken on the phone, but she was gracious enough to accept our invitation on the program. And the reason...
Right, and you were in cooperative economics, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, Black-owned and operated businesses. We were purchasing from Black-owned businesses, and this brother was definitely one of the ones who came through and heeded the call.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And she spearheaded it. I gotta say, she spearheaded that group, the Cooperative Economics Group, which really did some positive things. And we gotta start it back up again, right, sister? Is it back up?
Well, I've changed the dynamic of it. Instead of us supporting Black-owned and operating businesses, we're doing Black schools now.
Okay.
So we're finding Black schools who have needs. And who need our support, basically, and all of the members who have committed to the show are basically wrapping their arms around that school and making the contributions to be able to help, build strong structural organizations by way of our educational systems.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and that's definitely a worthy cause, because I know Negro business go out of business real quick anyway.
Right. Well, and the other thing about the business aspect is that we have people who they'll support until their business gets chosen, and
exactly.
then once their business is chosen, I don't hear from them anymore.
Right.
So no, that's not really how this works. So I figure if we do something, the conscious ones among us, if we find that one thing, that one niche, which is our children, that we all can kind of agree on, I think that would be hopefully more successful and have longevity. The cooperative economics business aspect was very successful for about a year, and then I kind of started seeing people kind of taper off a little bit after they won. So this is something, what more worthy cause is there than our children?
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement. Now, Sister ZaZa, I just in looking at this issue of the final call, I was just struck, man, and I'm always surprised at the content of the final call, because it's so conscious and it's so uplifting, and it elevates our minds to such a level. But this particular paper was so positive in its dealing with the woman, which is why one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show. Last week I had Brother Student Minister Tony Muhammad out of Los Angeles on the show, and we were dealing with the first story that we dealt with was on the cover of the final call, and it dealt with this whole reality TV craze and the what's them sisters name? The Real Housewives of Atlanta and right, and the sex tape with Mimi Faust and Scandal and all of this, all of this stuff, which really disturbs your spirit. You know what I mean? As a man, it really disturbs my spirit. I really can't watch the programs, and that was Brother Tony's consensus too. And I've chalked it up to it being somewhat of a war being waged against black women.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're absolutely correct, and kudos to the final call, I'm actually holding the May 6th edition of Big Bucks, Violence, and Black Women.
Right.
And then also the April 1st, which I kind of based part of my lecture, Black Youth in Peril, around this article, My Sister's Keeper. And on the front of it, it has Rakia Boyd and Alicia Thomas,
Right.
Alicia McBride, Miriam Carey, Melissa Alexander, Ayana Jones, and Hadea Pendleton. So yes, the war has absolutely been waged on Black women and young girls as well, and the reality TV deception is one of the ways that it's taking place. I hear people, we're so sensitive now, we're so scary now, we're so fragile when it comes to us looking at the reality of what we're facing as a people. And I often get this, why are you bashing Black women? It's like, how can I bash Black women? I'm a Black woman.
Right.
So naturally, I'm going to be harder on the sisters, especially, if 70% of our households are headed by women.
Right.
And we don't know if there's ever going to be a man to step in and to, balance out that energy within the household. If 70% of our households are headed by Black women, then I should be hard on Black women.
Absolutely.
All of us should be hard on Black women. And I think that because, the sisters have been the glue in our communities for so long that there's been a delay in us really stepping back and taking an accurate assessment of what the Black woman is putting forward.
Right.
That's not to say that our grandmothers and our mothers and even our sisters in present time haven't been able to hold it down and, bring forward new generations and to, have a positive impact on our communities. But if we're looking at the reality of the situation, let's say Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and what's happening to our children there right now, who's gone and looked at the demographics and made an assessment of how many of those young men who are killing each other and angry and violent grow up in single-parent households.
Right.
So, my thing is, and in all of my lectures and speaking engagements, I tell the sisters, will the real Black woman please stand up?
Right.
Because how are we going to compete with the Nicki Minaj's and the Rihanna's and the Nene Leakes and the Mimi Spouse and, this
Right.
whole stripper culture now and glamorizing, the V's Vivianos and the gold diggers. And I saw a sister wrote an article called Don't Knock V Viviano's Hustle.
Right.
I mean, like, what the hell? What are we dealing with? What happened
Right.
to us as women? My thing right now is it's time for us. It's not enough to just sit back and secure your household. Yes, the first nation is the nation within the household, but then we have to step outside of that and give our young sisters a new image, a new lifestyle. We need to make things smart and intelligent and modest and fly. We need to make that fly again. So
Right.
we have to compete with that. That's we have to. Well, no, I don't have to do that. I don't have to compete with them. All I have to do, we do. If they're winning the hearts and minds of our young daughters, we do need to compete with that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And as we were talking, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about, what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in regards to teaching men and teaching women. And one of the things that he said was that when you teach a man, you teach an individual. However, when you teach a woman, you teach an entire nation.
Teach a nation.
And so,
Yes,
likewise, when the enemy attacks a man, he can attack me all day. He's locking a brother up. He's locking up an individual. But when he attacks a woman via this programming, and programming is the absolute correct word to use when you talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta and Love and Hip Hop and all this other madness, you're attacking the mind of an entire nation.
Yes, sir.
And so
I did my last lecture when I did Rebuilding the Black Family. I did a breakdown of the scandal. It was scandal. It was being Mary Jane. It was I don't know why my printer just started printing out of nowhere. Excuse me, the noise in the background.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it has a mind of its own.
Right.
It was Basketball Wives, Real Housewives of Atlanta, all of these different shows. They're black women that are in the background that are controlling and operating these shows.
Absolutely.
These are sisters who are greenlighting these shows and putting these images out there for the world. So 4 million, these shows average somewhere between 4 million all the way up to 10 million. I think the season 3 episode of Scandal, I only know this, I don't watch the shows, but I did some research.
Right.
So I can have my facts right. But,
Absolutely.
Scandal episode 3, the season premiere, had 10.5 million viewers.
Wow.
So sisters are having scandal parties now where they get together at sports bars and come pay money and sit back and socialize and watch images of a black woman, you know, basically being used as a mistress to a white man.
Right.
And at the same time, there's a homosexual couple that has a black baby.
Right.
We don't even talk about that.
Right.
So this is systematic programming, as you stated, and we have sisters lining up to go to scandal parties, but when we have Black Power movements on lectures or events that go to the heart of, you know, resurrecting our people, they ain't nowhere to be found.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. and you know, while you're talking about Scandal, that whole Negro bedwench comes to mind, and just that whole concept, because that's all she is. She's a glorified Negro bedwench who not only has one white man who happens to be the president, but she got another white boy that she's dealing with at the same time. And so you're right.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly.
But yes, ma'am. So yeah, that's a heavy piece. How do we? I mean, this is a heavy question for me to ask you, but since I got you on the line, how do we combat that? You know what I mean? How do we combat that? Because I could tell a sister all day, but she not gonna hear nothing from me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, the most successful reformer of our women, of course, in our history has been the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. But it just seems like our voice don't carry that much weight. You know what I mean? So how do we combat that?
Well, I partially spoke to that earlier when I talked about sisters, you know, sisters who are righteous and sisters who are striving to be righteous, being at the forefront and being vocal and being visual and offering our young sisters an alternative to the savagery that they're seeing on TV and that they see in videos every day.
Right.
So, you know, we have to be more vocal. We have to be seen. When I go out and do speaking engagements, I can't tell you how many young sisters, and even just from the YouTube videos and the shows, sisters hitting me up, they're so thankful. And when I say sisters, I'm not talking about conscious sisters. I'm talking about, I look through their Facebook page, they got gold teeth.
Right.
Some of them might have on, you know what I'm saying, skimpy clothes.
Right.
Or, you know, but they write me and they say, I never thought about what you said that way. You really made me step back and kind of reassess myself. You know, so when we think about the power of words, and we know, you and I both know the power of words, because it was words that brought us the knowledge of self. So when we think about the power of words, we have to be vocal in expressing to our people that there is absolutely a war going on for the minds and hearts of our daughters and for our women as well. Let's just look at this. You talked about the sister, and you wanted to talk about the sister who we wrote about who they wrote about in the final call, the Kelly Williams Bolar.
Right.
Well, there was another sister named Tanya McDowell,
Okay.
who was sentenced to 5 years in jail. She used her babysitter's address, and now they say she was homeless. They say that she was sentenced for the time in jail because she got convicted of 4 counts of drug dealing. Now, you and I both know if you homeless, you ain't really doing no real drug dealing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But this is how they work, you know, because they really got her for, they said she stole, quote unquote, $16,000, $17,000 worth of education from the school district.
Wow.
So they put this sister in jail. Then you've got cases like the sister Raquel Nelson. Raquel Nelson is a sister in Cobb County, Georgia, who she was crossing the street with her son, and she crossed while the light was green, so she wasn't supposed to cross the street, but she crossed the street, and her son ended up getting killed by a drunk driver.
Right.
They charged this sister with vehicular manslaughter, even though the person who was driving the car killed the child.
Wow.
Now, these types of stories. There's this, Marissa Alexander, of course, we all know her story. The sister Shanisha Taylor, who was put in jail after she left her children unattended.
Right.
She was homeless. She was trying to get a
Good
job
job
out in
interview.
Arizona.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
We've
ma'am.
got Sister Renisha McBride, who this devil said that he was scared of her because
She
she
knocked
came
on
to
the
his
door.
door and shot her face off.
Right.
We have Sister Sharonda Jones in Dallas, Texas, who's doing a life sentence right now as a first-time drug offender because they built a case against her with a bunch of different people who basically were scared, so
Right.
they complied. She's doing a life sentence right now. Never been in trouble before. We've got Sister Centoya Brown, a young sister who was sentenced at the age of 16 years old of life in prison for killing a pimp. Sarah Cruzen did 25 years in jail for killing a pimp. Originally, she was sentenced to life. So when we have this information and when we sit our people down and paint this real clear picture, and this is what I do, this is what I did in my last lecture when I talked about rebuilding the black family. I painted the picture. You can't deny this.
Right.
And, it might seem a little fuzzy, a little gray when you just talk about one or two stories here or there. But when I show you that there's been 3 black men who were handcuffed in the back of police cars over the past 3 years and they were shot and killed,
Right.
then it becomes real.
Right.
So it's up to us who have this information, who are researching and staying abreast with what's happening with our people. It's up to us to put this in a package and in a language, get them in the room, sit them down to say, this is the war that's going on.
That's right.
This is why our young people can't sit still when they come into a room.
Right.
This is why, our young men hate themselves. This is internalized racism, and this is nothing but what's been done to us for more than 400 years. So
Right.
This is how we combat it. Number one, what I just explained. Number two, we have to live by example. So, there's no greater imagery to me than the black family.
Right.
And when you see a strong man and a strong woman and their children walk into a room, it has a certain air about it. It has a certain beauty and royalty about it. We have to rebuild our families so we can show our children who don't have model families what it's supposed to look like. I can't tell you how many times I've heard brothers say, even in the book, The Bond, the 3 brothers who, I believe they were from Chicago, who made a pact together
doctors,
that they
yeah.
were all going to become doctors.
Absolutely.
But they talked about the pain that they experienced growing up, not having a male role model and not really knowing how to come into their own as young black men.
Right.
So that's the call to the brothers. Sometimes
That's right.
these youngsters just need to see what a real black man looks like.
Right.
And vice versa for me and the other sisters, the Abel Muhammads and the Georgia Grooves and all of the other sisters that are out here doing this work, trying to help and raise our people. We have to give them an image, a visual image, a vocal image, an emotional image, a spiritual image of what the black woman is supposed to be. That's very key because a lot of us just don't know. Right.
Praise be to Allah. Now we're gonna jump right into it since you brought it up. Praise be to Allah. On page 4 of this edition of the Final Call, for those who have it, the article is entitled "Jailed for Stealing Education." A courageous mother shares a heart-rending story, and it's by the editor of the Final Call, Brother Richard B. Muhammad. I'm just going to read a piece from it, then I'll get your comments. And you kind of touched on it, but I want to ask you a couple other questions on it. When an Ohio judge sentenced Kelly Williams Bolar to jail for enrolling children in the suburban school district where their grandfather lived, sharp words were spoken. "I will make an example out of you," said the judge. And then later on down in the article, it explains her situation. Miss Williams Bolar was working with special needs students at a public school, had never been in trouble, and was going to school part-time after a divorce. Her home was broken into, and the Akron, Ohio schools weren't good. After a talk with her dad, she agreed to enroll her girls where he lived. She knew it wasn't uncommon for children to attend schools outside of where they lived. And subsequent to that, we know the story. Sister was charged with theft of services.
Right.
And the judge said he was going to throw the book at her. He wanted to make an example out of her. Now, just if we could delve into the mind of this so-called judge, what message does that send for you to say, I'm going to make an example out of you? I mean, what were your thoughts on that piece?
I mean, just the notion that, we have people, they said they spent $6,000 investigating this sister. They actually hired a private detective to investigate this story. It's like the mere fact that we have these people in the background plotting and planning on single mothers. I'm not talking about drug kingpins. We're not talking about black boys or dope boys or prostitution rings. We're talking about sisters who are trying to get their children to and from school, working and going to school to try to make a better way for themselves. I think that this is just another link in the chain of criminalizing black women. And there was an article done recently in Colorlines that says that the black women are the fastest growing segment of the prison population. It says that there is a new class of crimes that have been created or relabeled. 20 years ago, crimes like the sale and possession of tiny amounts of drugs or drug use during pregnancy were not even considered crimes.
Right.
Today, they're fueling a massive uptick in incarceration rates. So, of course, we know that, 2 judges were sentenced to jail recently for basically funneling children into the juvenile system and getting paybacks on the other end.
Absolutely.
We have prisons that have quotas that have to be met. So, who is more befitting to meet those quotas than our people? And, of course, the goal is always layered. So, one part of it is money and filling the prisons, but it's always bigger than money. I always say that the black family, the solid black family, is the death of racism, white supremacy. So they are attacking us at all angles to make sure that the black family does not stay intact. So we've had a systemized, a chronology, if you will, of things that have happened in this society that have painted a certain picture of black women to keep the world from being empathetic to us here in America. So when we were in slavery, it was the Jezebel, the promiscuous slave who was enticing the slave master and, wanted to be her bed witch. And, then after that we had the mammy. Right. Then after that we had the masculinized black woman who was dominating the household and who was taking up arms, at least in the struggle with white women and the whole feminism thing, destroying her family. Then we had Ronald Reagan and the whole crack cocaine war on drugs agenda where, they labeled black women as welfare queens. And, we were trying to collect welfare to get crack and weren't taking care of our children. So all of these things, fast forwarding to now, we're just looking at a compilation of all of these different caricatures that have been imposed upon us. We're looking at it head on right now. This image that black women don't take care of their children. So we're going to do whatever we have to do to remove them from the home.
Right.
You see all these stories of these young children being handcuffed in school.
Right.
Girls being arrested for wearing Afro puffs. And, she had a temper tantrum, so we handcuffed her. And her child doesn't have a temper tantrum at one point or another.
Absolutely.
So it's decriminalizing our people, our children, our women, and then it's also giving the world a certain image so that they don't have any empathy when stories like Kendrick Johnson and Renisha McBride and Trayvon Martin happen. Right. People are like, well, they're killing each other anyway.
Right.
They're savage anyway. So why should we intervene? What should we do? So this is a layered, systematic assault on our people. And you said, what can we do? One of the things we have to be able to do is just express what you and I are talking about right now. You'd be surprised how many sisters that you sit down with and can't actually have a real conversation about racism. That's the problem.
Yeah. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness. So many things are running through my mind. But you know, part of the problem is they've done such a good job, and we say they, you know, which points to a conspiracy, which a lot of people don't believe in, but I know conspiracies exist. As a matter of fact, we evidence that conspiracies exist.
Yeah, no, we don't do conspiracies. We can show and prove everything that we're talking
Right.
about. Everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of our
I'm gonna delve into that in the book, the actual facts. We're not dealing with fluff and emotion.
Right.
No, we're gonna deal with the actual facts.
Right, because I mean, a lot of our women are so enamored with the slave master and their children that they couldn't possibly believe, you know, because when we look at a story like this, we're dealing with motives. Like, what would be the motive of these people to go to such lengths to incarcerate this sister? You know what I mean? Hiring private detectives. I mean, when you really think about that's heavy. And so it has to be somehow built within that particular system. I mean, certainly this judge couldn't have had just a grudge against this particular black woman. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I don't think it's a personal thing. First, let me just say something. You said that black women are so enamored with white people. I think that when we address that conversation, we have to. I would say, before I said black women are enamored with white people, I would say that there are a lot of black women who hate themselves.
Right.
And they have been systematically, made to believe that they are less than. And that hasn't just come at the hands of racism, white supremacy. A lot of the things that have happened to us have been a result of racism, white supremacy. But, you know, when we look at the insecurities that a lot of sisters are facing right now, I mean, these things come at the hands of some of the relationships we have with our men.
True that.
Some of the relationships that the sisters, that their mothers have had with their fathers.
Right.
This whole competitive edge, you know, having to compete and worry about your man creeping. And I can't tell you how many sisters I've heard who say, you know, all men cheat.
Right.
Like, that's just a common thing. Like, you know, no, all men cheat. I already know that. So I'm just going to, you know, put this bulletproof vest on and enter into a relationship and just hope that I make it.
Right.
But you're walking on eggshells because you know in your heart that you really don't want your man to cheat, but you've been basically, you know, made to believe that that's the reality. So there's a lot of sisters who are walking around who are unhappy, who are angry, who are bitter, and who have deep-seated issues. And I think that we really have to start, especially men. I'm hearing when brothers talk about black women now, there's a vitriol now. There's a real lack of empathy when we talk about the way, you know, the reality of black women. And it's like, for every action, there's a reaction. There's real deep-seated issues that black women have that if we don't go to the core of them, we can't just ignore it.
Right.
Because these are going to be mothers of future generations, so we can't just ignore it. We can't slap a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound and just make it seem like everything is okay. No, we have to get to the root just like we have to with our brothers. So I don't, you know, part of it is the being enamored with white people, and I don't even think it's white people. I think it's the convenience that they have of being rulers of this world. I think it's the quality of life that a lot of white people have that our sisters who have been struggling for so long yearn for. A lot of black women don't know what it feels like to take a week or a 2-week vacation.
Right.
They don't know what it feels like to be able to step away from their reality, their life, and just be able to step back and just breathe for a second and push the reset button. So I think that, you know, that's a big part of that. And I think we should be careful. But remind me what your question was, brother.
I like the direction that you're going in, because I mean that's right and exact. And I didn't communicate it the way I should have communicated in regards to being enamored. That's definitely part of it, but I do want to stress that I'm definitely empathetic to black women. Like we're talking about Kerry Washington and Scandal and all of the whole Negro bedwench syndrome. That it didn't happen in a vacuum. You know what I mean? If we was to talk to Kerry Washington, I think sincerely she believes that, you know, this is a great opportunity for her and for black women, and that's why she's doing what she's doing. You know what I mean? And I think it comes from a very sincere space, and we're in that condition as a result, of course, of slavery and the ill effects of slavery that have never been addressed. And so I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And
yeah, and I didn't take it the way you said it to mean any kind of way.
Right.
I'm more so speaking to the young sisters who, and even the women who will listen to this, and don't really realize how entranced, how immersed we are in a life of suffrage.
Right.
We are immersed in suffering to the point that anybody who has a good on the outside looking in, has a good picture, we want to live vicariously through them. So we want to live vicariously through an Olivia Pope because it looks like, you know, she stays fly every day, dresses beautiful, she's got a powerful job, she's making moves, she wakes up and has this glamorous lifestyle and is, you know, in love with a powerful man. So it's rooted in more than just, you know, being in people. It's layered, and yeah, we've got to start having those kind of conversations, and that's what I try to do when I talk to sisters, and they're like, man, I never really thought about it like that before. So, you know, yeah. Indeed.
And I did want to ask one more question about this Kelly Williams Bolar piece, and you know, one of the things that stood out to me is the suffering. Go ahead, say it again.
I remember the question now.
Oh, go ahead, answer it then.
Is the judge like after her?
Right.
Just about her? Yeah, thank you. I usually write the questions down so I can remember, but I got caught up in what I wanted to say. But it's not a personal thing. It's the system of racism, white supremacy. They are feeding the system.
Right.
So when you look at the judge who got sentenced to 28 years in Pennsylvania, he wasn't singling those boys out. He just knows who is dispensable.
Absolutely.
He knows who he can get away with throwing away. This is one of the cases that you can get away with throwing this sister away.
Right.
You know, even the cases, in all these cases that I looked at in research, it's like they had these big, heavy sentences hanging over their head, and then all of a sudden when the case gets some media attention, the story starts getting traction, and people are outraged. Then the judge says, "Oh, okay, I'm going to be nice now and just give you 3 years probation, and you have to pay $30,000 restitution."
Right.
And everybody's like, "Oh, see, she got justice." No, that's not justice.
Right.
You put this woman through hell.
Right.
We're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. You're putting our people through hell, and then you expect them to just go back and regain their lives like nothing ever happened.
Exactly.
So it's not that it's a personal vendetta against her. It's the system of racism, white supremacy, and like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson says, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, they are going to do whatever it takes to keep themselves on top and to keep us at the bottom.
Right.
So you'll have stories like this, all of these names that I just named off. Even, you know, you look at Trayvon Martin. You got all these different people. Now here we have it. His body sat in the morgue for 3 days, right?
Right.
Did you hear them say that one time in the trial?
Nope.
Okay, so that means everybody that was involved in the case, from his lawyer to George Zimmerman's lawyer to the judge to the police officer to the morgue to the people who had reported on the story, all of these people got in line when it was time for them to play their role as far as racism, white supremacy is concerned. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that the news reporter who knew about it, who didn't report on it, had a personal vendetta against Trayvon Martin's family. No, they're just protecting the system of racism, white supremacy. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's heavy. Another piece, right before we move on, and it reads, perhaps most painful and infuriating is the death of Edward L. Williams, the 65-year-old man died after serving 11 months in prison. He had a month left on his sentence.
Man, that's really, when I was reading this story, and I read that, she said her father was sticking to his guns.
Right.
And like, you know, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm standing by what I did. I mean, his brother lost his life at the young age of
Right.
55 years old.
Right.
You know, I think that it is extremely tragic, and it looks like, from what I've looked at, the way that they're handling this case now, because they think because they let her out that they've done her a favor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where is the reparations
Exactly.
for her father dying? They killed him.
They killed him. They
Let's be
absolutely
clear,
killed him.
all right? They murdered him.
Absolutely.
And they took away the last years of his life. Wouldn't even let her go see him because they said that it was a conspiracy.
Right.
I mean, you know, if there's anybody that's not clear that a war has been waged on our people, you might want to read this story. This
Yeah.
is a 65-year-old black man, already of an age,
Yeah.
kind of, you know, already well established, not causing any harm to anyone, not out, you know, doing any harm or looking threatening or anything that they try to impress upon our men. He's not a threat to anyone.
Right.
The only thing he tries, what white men all across this country do for their families every day.
Absolutely.
His own.
Absolutely. Trying to get their babies the best education possible. And the other striking thing about this article is the sister got a grandparent power of attorney so that, you know, she would be legal, and they still
Right.
turned it down, which is, oh my
Not even
goodness.
to hear. And the girl had already been in school for a year.
Right.
Like, come on. I can see if this is fresh off the hills. This is the thing. And this is what really we need to understand. You would think that after this child has been in the school for a year now, that the teachers have developed a fondness for her.
Right.
That the principal has developed a fondness for this child. That somebody's going to step in and be like, wait a minute, okay, you know, she may have, you know, blurred some lines and did some extra stuff in order to get her in, but we love her.
Right.
So leave her alone. No, that didn't happen. And that's what our people need to understand. If I could underscore anything, we need to understand the system of racism, white supremacy does not quit. We really are all that we have. And when we fight to put our children in these type of environments because we feel that they're going to get a better education, there is a consequence that comes with that. There's a serious consequence that comes with that. It's not only being threatened with jail. It's not only her father being put in jail. But what is the lesson to the daughter? Now she's carrying guilt now.
Right.
Because she feels like her grandfather died because he was just trying to help her. Why are we putting our children through that?
Right. Oh man.
Why as mothers now, at what point do we say, okay, hold on, stop. Wait a minute, stop everything.
Right.
Let me find a homeschooling program. Let me do this a different way because
Right.
I'm not going to put my child in harm's way or put myself in harm's way because I feel like their ice is cooler.
Yes, ma'am. At one point, I mean, we gotta do a, like brother Khaled used to say, a checkup from the neck up.
That's right, exactly. Exactly.
We really do. If you're just now tuning in, we're covering this issue of the Final Call newspaper. It's volume 33, number 32. Mother Love, and on the line we have Sister ZaZa Ali, who is giving us that. She's giving us that work. All praise is due to Allah. Now the next piece that we want to deal with appears on page 31, and I wanted to deal with this piece because you know, if we're conscious in the nation and the other, you know, black organizations, we're really hip to this, but there's a whole generation of our babies, man, who really they really think that we're living in a post-racial society for whatever reason. And so we got so this article stood out to me because it's written by a young sister, but it reads Light Skin versus Dark Skin, Breaking the Mental Chains, and it's written by a young sister in the Vanguard whose name is Sister Akira X, out of St. Louis. And I'm gonna just read the first paragraph and then get your thoughts, Sister ZaZa. People often think that stereotypes are made by another race and their view of the race they are labeling. But what most don't think about are the labeling and divisive stereotypes that are used within a race. such as stereotypes often used in the black community. This type of division in a race can be poisoning and indirectly divisive. Stereotypes such as light skin versus dark skin within the black community are cancerous, dangerous, and shape how we view ourselves and our people. Fortunately, we can solve this problem by teaching and mentally reshaping how we've been trained to think and behave. Now, first off, Sister ZaZa, I just wanted to know, as a young author, what did you think of my young sister's piece?
Well, I was very impressed by Sister Akira's piece, especially when I got to the end and I saw how young she was.
Right.
I was like, oh wow, okay, all right, we getting somewhere now.
Right.
Not just the intricacies of what we're dealing with now, but going back through the history and kind of painting a full picture of how we got to where we are. I think that is extremely important. The messenger said that of all of our studies, history is most qualified to reward our research.
Right.
So when she went back and dealt with the Willie Lynch letter, and when she went back and dealt with slavery, that was extremely important because that validates and pinpoints a certain mindset that we're dealing with right now.
Right.
I will just say, personally, for me, this has been a subject and a reality that has caused me a lot of pain in my life. And as I read through the article, and even as I watched, there's a video out dealing with dark-skinned sisters and the pain that they have internalized and had to deal with all their lives. I think that conversation needs to be brought full circle because being a light-skinned female and growing up in a family full of very dark-skinned people and growing up and having a serious commitment and love for black people, I have experienced an enormous amount of, how do I put it, pain.
Right.
Because there is this reality, and then part of this reality, and then part of it is, we assume what life is like for a light-skinned person. We assume that it's easy. We assume that doors are open for us, everywhere we go, and that's just not a reality. So what we have is we have people who are of a lighter skin hue that are coming up in black community and that are becoming callous towards our people because, we don't choose how we look. We don't choose our skin tone.
Right.
But this society is oppressing and raping and robbing our dark-skinned brothers and sisters of their right to life and their right to be humans and to be, just be who they are.
Right.
And I think that a lot of our many of our dark-skinned brothers and sisters have internalized and in turn dished that out to other people, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I've heard this being said by a lot of different light-skinned people that I've come in contact with over the years that they felt this same, it's almost like an outcast kind of feeling. So while we're having this conversation, and I talked about this in my last lecture, talking about rebuilding the black family, I put up an image of all of the different colors and shades of our people all across the world.
Right.
We have quote-unquote Aboriginal, I don't like to use that word, but that's what they call them, the Aborigines from Australia, with blonde hair and blue eyes and dark skin. And, we have all of these different shades. The Eritreans and the Ethiopians have straight, curly, wavy hair and, pointy noses. And it's like, we've internalized the racism of white supremacy and just Europeans and in general. And now we're using all of these different weapons, ammunitions that they use towards us. We've turned them on each other right now.
Right.
So when I was coming up, when I was 10 and 12, dark skin was the standard of beauty for me. So when I used to look in the mirror, I wasn't like, yes, I'm happy I'm light skinned with a funny. Even to this day, I have a certain facial type and phenotype that I look at and it's like, I had to get used to it.
Right.
So we have to be really, really careful about how we handle one another and deal with that internalized pain, because we're turning it on one another and we're inflicting it on the people that we are supposed to find refuge in.
Right.
And I've dealt with that in my own family, just coming from a dark-skinned family, and you know, little innuendos that happened over the years with my sister and how she handled me versus how she handled my children. Those things brought me a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
She never really knew, but it really did. And what we're doing is, Anthony Brother said, hurt people hurt people.
Right. True
Hurt
indeed.
people hurt people.
True indeed.
But we're a bunch of hurt people walking around with internalized racism and all these issues about ourselves, and we're turning the guns around at each other and shooting one another. So I say, if we claim to be the mother and father of civilization, you as a black man, light-skinned, dark-skinned, brown-skinned, caramel, me as a black woman, light-skinned, dark-skinned, all these different shades that we come in, if we are the mother and father of civilization, then we need to start acting like it.
Right.
We act like tenants. We act like tenants on this planet when we should be acting like landlords. You see what I'm saying? So if we move throughout the planet, throughout our communities, when we interact with one another, if we start taking ownership of our realities, ownership of our pain, of our experiences, then I think that we'll handle each other a lot better. But the colorism is so real. Sometimes when I walk in a room, I can feel it. And I've had this conversation with Griff before. And he said it, you know, you're going to have to prove yourself, you know, because you're light-skinned and you got wavy, curly hair.
Right.
It's like, you know, we know as black people, we got to prove ourselves. You know, we have to work 3 times as hard. So me being a conscious black woman, you know, coming in talking this Africa and this black talk, I got to come in and prove myself before you even be like, oh, okay, oh, I get it now, just because of the way I look.
Right.
But we're supposed to be the conscious ones, right?
Absolutely. We're supposed to be.
We talking about Mama Africa, but you gonna treat me like a peasant? Okay. All right.
You know, it's real interesting, sis, because you know I'm the opposite in that I was raised in a family of 6 children, 6 brothers and sisters, and I was the darkest one. You know what I mean? I'm not even that dark, but there was always this difference. Like, I mean, and again, hurt people. Like you said, I agree. Hurt people hurt people. And, you know, I remember growing up, one of the most painful memories I had is my grandmother was darker than me, but she didn't like me because I was dark skinned. And so we have, that's why I'm so thankful for the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because they taught me to love self, you know, regardless. Exactly. To love self, no matter what shade we are, that we all, I mean, whether we the lightest or damn near white, just to love your people, you know what I mean? And to see a brother as a brother and a sister as a sister, and to get that sickness out of our brains. And the interesting thing is, we're accused of being racist. We're accused of being black supremacists, when the reality is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan in this hour have the antidote for that white supremacy and racism.
Right. And most people don't really have a proper understanding of what racism is. That's
right.
why, you know, people throw that word around. It's like, oh, you're a racist. No, I'm a black woman in America. It is impossible for me to be a racist.
Absolutely.
Racism, the term ism at the end of the word denotes a systematic way of life. When we talk about racism, we're talking about court systems, we're talking about denying jobs, we're talking about denying health care, we're talking about urban racism and police brutality and you know, the prison industrial complex. So, no, I can't be a racist. And we have to know that definition, so that when people try to back us up in a corner using that, no, I might be prejudiced.
So
and
say,
I think I have...
So, sister, say it again. Are you saying that as black people in America, we cannot be racist?
I'm absolutely saying that. I'm saying as black people in America and around the world, it is impossible for us to be racist.
Praise be to Allah. I just want you to say it again, make it clear.
No, I'm absolutely saying that without a doubt. Now, I can be prejudiced.
Thank you.
Prejudice means prejudging someone, and I think that based on the past 6,000 years, I would be out of my mind to not prejudge a European. That doesn't mean that I don't measure everyone by their individual merit, but, you know, based on history, I can kind of make a certain assessment dealing with the society based on, you know, what Europeans have brought forward, especially when dealing with our people. But Elijah Muhammad says, and I remember this stuck out to me, and I made it a point when dealing with my own son for us to have a house full of images of black people.
Right.
In my house, I have Moors, I have the darkest skinned Moors, I have Sade, I have all of these different images of beautiful black people so that he can wake up every day and see these images and see what the standard of beauty is. It's not based on your skin tone. It's based on your cultural, it's based on your connection to the Creator and just who we are in essence as a people. And I think that for all of the sisters and the brothers who are listening to this, who are parents, it's extremely important for us to do that.
Yes,
have
ma'am.
those visuals up for our children to look to so that we can get rid of this cancerous disease that, even though it's not, you know, physically killing us, emotionally and spiritually, it's breaking us down and it's keeping us from fighting the real enemy that we all share.
Right. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Sister, this has been awesome, and this time has ripped by. I didn't even get to go through all my questions. So we'll definitely have to do it again.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Before we go, though, I wanted you to tell us, what do you have coming up next? I know you're on the lecture circuit, so what do we got going on?
Okay, so first, our weekly show we do Tuesdays and Thursday evenings is Enemy Minds Radio. It's on blogtalkradio.com/Minds Matter. That's MINDZMATTER. You can go there and you can listen to all of our archive shows. We do weekly interviews with a brother named Rich on YouTube, and those interviews have been getting a lot of attention dealing with current events and hot topics. We're actually going to do our next interview tonight in about an hour.
Yes,
dealing
ma'am.
with the Michael Jackson situation, the hologram, Tupac,
Right.
And just how they rape our entertainers, you know, once they go to their deathbed. So we're going to kind of deal with the culture vampires. And then this whole Project Bluebeam /hologram thing. So we do that every week. You can go to Black Magic, BLACKMAGIK363. That's on YouTube, and you can go back and listen to all of those interviews that we've done. We're going to be in Detroit this weekend. On Saturday, we're going to be at the 5E Gallery celebrating Brother Khalid El-Hakim, the Black History Mobile Museum. He has a permanent home now. So I'm going to be speaking on black women in antiquity. And Griff, I'm not sure what he's going to be talking about, but we're both going to be speaking on Saturday. And then Sunday in Detroit at Nandy's Knowledge Cafe. We're both going to be doing lectures. I'm going to be talking about Black Matters. We're going to be at Morehouse in a couple of weeks. It's a lot of stuff going on. Just go to my Facebook page, like my Facebook page, or go to Enemy Minds Radio and like that page so you can keep abreast with what we have going on. And the main thing always is to raise the conscious level of our people and to wake the dead.
Praise be to Allah. Awesome, sister. Awesome. Man, again, sis, I want to, again, thank you. And I'm sure the audience is thanking you for all the beautiful jewels that you dropped this evening. And I'm going to be listening. I'm going to jump on tonight and listen. I try and catch the show as often as I can, sis. But honestly, I was talking with my brother, one of my brothers in the barbershop today. And I was like, man, she does so much. They do. I can't keep up. You guys have so much going on. It's like, man.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but that's beautiful.
We'll sleep when we die.
Right. And that's beautiful because,
Yeah.
and you know, and that's my motivation for doing the show too. Just to have that positive content, to have that, you know, that elevation, because there's so much nonsense and BS online and on Facebook and on Twitter, and everybody twerking and jerking and acting the damn fool, that we need, you know what I mean, for those of us who gonna go hard, for us to actually go hard. So
And we can't look back, you know, we can't have our children and our grandchildren looking back 50 and 100 years now saying, well, what did you know, Uncle Herman do? You know,
Right.
when all this stuff was going down. What did my mother do when all of this stuff was going down? No, you're going to be able to look back and see our footprints in the revolution and in the resurrection of our people. So I thank you, brother. I really appreciate you for giving me this platform. Much love to you, and of course the final call and all of the believers in the Nation of Islam. I love you guys, and yeah, we're looking forward to doing this work.
We love you, Queen, and we'll like I said, we're gonna be tuning in, and we're gonna I definitely post what we have done tonight on your page, and just keep up the good work, Queen, and tell Griff that Brother Herman said Assalamu alaikum.
Will do.
All right, Queen. Peace.
All right. Peace, brother.
That was Sister ZaZa Ali. Wonderful, wonderful edition of the Final Call News Hour. Now, before we get out of here, and we gave you all of her information, so definitely hit up Sister ZaZa on Facebook. I don't know if she has a Twitter, but she's on Facebook. You can look her up on YouTube and get all of the stuff that she has going on. She has a lot going on, as she stated towards the end of that piece. But before we get out of here, I want to tell you what we have going on in the wonderful city of Denver. And that is, we have a showing. The Nation of Islam Denver Study Group, the FOI, presents at the Crossroads Theater on Saturday, May 24th. That's this Saturday coming up, May 24th, 2014. Doors going to open at 6 p.m. Show's going to start at 7. A documentary called The Million Man March, The Untold Story. And you can get tickets. You'll be able to get tickets at the door, 2590 Welton Street. But you can also get your tickets ahead of time at Supreme Style Barbers at 7520 East Colfax Avenue. That's the coldest barbershop in the land. So pick up your tickets and make sure you go to that event. The tickets are $8 or 2 for $15. And this is a fundraiser for Denver's study group, the Nation of Islam here. So please come out and support. It's going to be an awesome documentary. Trust me. The last joint we did was the Trials of Muhammad Ali, and that was powerful as well. So come out and support your brothers and sisters. Come out and support the Nation of Islam, and let's keep these positive vibrations going. That's what this work is all about. So that's it. Let me just tell you who this is brought to you by. This is brought to you again by Supreme Style Barbershop, coldest barbershop in the land. I, Herman Muhammad, your master barber, are your proprietor there, 7520 East Colfax Avenue. Visit our site, www.astar2.com. It's an awesome site. Shows everything that we got going on at Supreme Style Barbershop. Jump on, blog with us. Again, remember to log on, get your final call, digitalfinalcall.com, digital.finalcall.com, and go back to NOI.org or youtube.com/FCNN and revisit Minister Farrakhan's Khan's historic lecture series, The Time and What Must Be Done. Again, I'm your man, Herman Muhammad, and I am out. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Peace! We out.
The hour is coming. There is no doubt about it. I want to get right to the point. The United States of America is about to come under the divine chastisement of God.
It's not a game, not even a war.